Well, we come back from the winter break in today's episode here at Jahn Regensburg with a couple of big games against top of the table Gladbach in the Bundesliga and Arsenal away in the Champions League off the back of a transfer window opening, and Real Madrid have been throwing money at us, so we've done a fair bit of business. Hello everyone and welcome to episode number 79 of Rookie to Royalty here on Shaun Does FM with Jahn Regensburg. I hope you're doing well and come up to those two big games we mentioned before, Gladbach in the Bundesliga and Arsenal away in the Champions League. And also a transfer window recap because a fair bit going on. One of our players is left for Real Madrid, and also there's FCON going on, and that's not ideal with an injury to another player in that same position. So we have done a little bit of transfer business. So hopefully you guys are looking forward to that. It does come off the back of yesterday's episode where you took on both Bayern and Sporting in the Bundesliga and the Champions League. If you missed that one, I'll leave a link to it over in the top right corner to actually show you guys some players who definitely were going to be leaving the club at that stage, and a few more have. But before then, we had two games in the Bundesliga. To be fair, it went about how you might expect, albeit that lost there a little bit of a surprise because Bayer Leverkusen, they were below us on the table, but unfortunately Lucchini there picked up an injury and Viper picked up 2 goals, despite the fact that we are supposed to be stopping crosses. Didn't look like that was the case there in that game, so unfortunately did suffer a 2-1 defeat there at Bayer Leverkusen. Before then though, we took on bottom of the table Darmstadt and thumped them 6-1. So 3 points there from our last 2 games before that winter break. It does mean we sit in third before this big top of the table clash here, where we take on Gladbach. Really, if we want any hope here of winning the Bundesliga this season, would be quite nice to pick up a win, make sure that at least Gladbach don't extend that gap out to something like 8 points. So fingers crossed here can find a way to start off the post-winter break spell quite nicely with this last game before the halfway stage. But as I mentioned, a couple of transfers that we have done here at Jahn Regensburg. You'll see there too a few that might also be going through, seeing as these days we've got just over 10 million in our transfer budget and 75k spare in our wage, which certainly is not that much less than we had at the end of yesterday's episode, at least in terms of the transfer budget wage-wise. That has been boosted up quite a bit, and that's because there's been a fair bit that has happened. Let's sort out here in terms of chronological order, and we'll show you what we have done. So obviously you knew that Thilo Haasmann and Alex Jimenez, they were leaving the club. Also, Edgar Vargas, we got rid of to El Taroun. He was another player not too happy with his playing time here. Our backup right back comes centre back, about third choice there in both those positions. We sold him for 7.75 million. Not too bad for a player that we signed for only 3.5, albeit his value there in Saudi Arabia is 40 million, which honestly seems like quite a bit for a player with not a heck of a lot of potential. But Edgar Vargas is now over at El Taroun, and also then the big ones do come in once we get rid there of those big circles. Dorn to Real Madrid. Yes, that was a big old bid, which in the end we couldn't turn down, especially as Dorn did want that move. So again, just like Thilo Haasmann, we do lose a homegrown nation player, which is a little bit of a concern. But for that fee, 31 million rising to 39 million has been great for us here. Just 7 appearances shy of 100 for us in the Bundesliga. But as I said, that money just felt like it was too good there to turn down for Dorn, especially as he wanted that move again, making a big old profit. That one quite similar to, of course, the deal we did for Rome Jadon Owusu-Odolo at the start of the season. But that time we spent a lot less on the player when we got him from Hertha Berlin. So that is quite a big move. Obviously had to replace him at left back, despite the fact we have a couple of quite promising left backs still in our squad, and Henning as well as Hansen. Also Paul Cooper has left for 250k. That was just selling him because he agreed a pre-contract, and I thought we'd take the money early. So a couple of sales that we've made, and it does mean our transfer budget obviously got bumped up quite a bit there. Vargas deal as well as the Dorn one by about 40 million. So we have spent a fair bit of money off the back of the winter break. First up, we bought in a replacement for Thilo Haasmann as the backup central midfielder from Club Leon. Omar Salas comes in for £6 million. He looks pretty darn handy. Can also do a job in advanced playmaker if we need him to. But for that fee, that looked quite good, with a fair bit there of potential for the young Venezuelan. So we brought him in to be the backup now to Louis Jorquera in central midfield. But as I said, also could do a job further forward if we need him to. But thankfully, that might not be the case off the back of the signing a few days later of Nahul Quintana for 9 million from Banfield. Now, that was mainly because Adama Kamara is away at AFCON and Lucchini got injured in that Bayer Leverkusen games. It did feel like maybe needed a bit of extra depth there in central attacking midfielder youngster with a fair bit of potential and who's not expecting a heck of a lot of game time. So we've signed him there from Bamfield. He might get a little bit of game time here while Lucchini is out. And of course, AFCON there with Kamara, not too natural in the central attacking midfield role we're probably going to use him in, but attribute-wise, he does look quite handy. So fingers crossed he might end up being a nice signing for us there out of Argentina, and also 18 years old, so should become homegrown club nation in a couple of years' time. In between that, we signed a replacement for the departing Alex Jimenez, Matteo Ficagna from Fiorentina, for 10 million rising to 11. He comes in as our new backup right back. Quite a handy player as he can do a job on both sides, and obviously with the departure as well of Edgar Vargas, we definitely needed someone who could cover that right back spot and behind Ballerini. So that's another sign we made there off the back of that transfer window opening. A couple more that we did do as well. Theo Pages comes in from Monaco. Honestly, this was just one we did on a free, but decided we'd bring him here early before he did turn 19, before that season did end, when he was supposed to join. So we've signed him there early just to make sure that in the future, if he turns out handy, he'll become homegrown club and nation as well, the former Monaco man. And the other big signing that we've made so far, Lorenzo Villani comes in as that replacement for away Dorn, 15 million rising up to near 19 million, the man from Roma. He is definitely our new first choice left back, a little bit better than both Henning as well as Rosnes Hansen. So we've brought him in there to replace away Dorn. I'm not too sure if he's actually better, but he's close enough and also a little bit more potential. So let's hope that move, it might pay off. So quite a bit of transfer business we have done so far. Obviously, a fair bit left too in our transfer budgets. Hopefully, going to bring in Ismail Decore as a potential upgrade on Ruslan. I know it's quite controversial. I've been looking at it though for a wee while, and we've finally got the money. So fingers crossed we get him from AC Milan. And also, one of the reasons that we're looking to do that as well is if we go to our squad, you'll see that Cristo Cuervo, once we find him here, it must be up the page a little bit, has been wanted by Real Madrid previously. Thankfully, it was a little bit more below his value than what they were doing with away Dorn. So we told him that we'd sell him if a bid came in of 36 million, and so far that has not been the case. But definitely, Cristo Cuervo, not too happy that we didn't let him join Real Madrid, but the fee, it was too low. So Real Madrid trying to upset things here at Jahn Regensburg, probably off the back of the fact that we beat them with only 10 men on the field back in the first half of the Champions League season. But fingers crossed these new signings, they can do a good job here. There's also a couple of injuries going to this first game in today's episode. They both should be back in time though for the Arsenal game in the Champions League. We've got Lucchini, as I mentioned, out with a twisted ankle for 4 to 8 days. That did come in that loss to Bayer Leverkusen. And also, we are missing Louis Horquera with a cold for 2 days. So a couple of players missing there in our midfield for this top of the table clash, where we do take on Borussia Mönchengladbach. So far this season, they've had a really good one. They sit 1 point clear of Bayern on top of the table, albeit it could have been more once we get rid here of the annoying thing that's covering up everything that I want to see go away. Let's go back here. Will that sort things out? Yes, it will. They've just lost to Bayern Munich. Actually, that gap could have been a little bit more if they picked up a win there, suffering a 1-0 defeat at home. But before then, they were in superb form. So definitely the form team before the winter break. Let's hope that loss to Bayern as well as the break, it might have affected them a little bit badly. And also, we are missing, as I mentioned, Adama Kamara on AFCON duty. So that's a bit of a concern, as well as the fact that Quim Jimenez is out with a suspension. So quite a few players missing there from our regular midfield. So it does mean it's a little bit makeshift here for this first game off the back of the winter break. But fingers crossed here can find a way to get the job done in a home game. That's pretty important to win if we want to keep pace here with both these guys as well as Bayern Munich. Now, quite a few changes, especially in midfield, and also a lot of new numbers, obviously, for those transfers that we've made. There's quite a few debuts coming up here in this game. I'm trying to just slowly integrate these guys into our squad if we can. Also, Tim Albert comes up from our B team, because really like currently in central midfield as well as advanced playmaker. Unfortunately, our new signing in Quintana has come here on a heavy workload off the back of the end of the Argentinian season. So he actually needs a rest. So really weak currently in the advanced playmaker role. Salas actually is going to play today in that role for us. And Lewis Walden is going to be tried out in central midfield. It's a job that he can do, and it allows us to also play Nuno Lazar, who should be better at right wing attribute-wise. So those are a couple of changes that we've made. Obviously, Henning comes in there at left back as well. Ballerini is at right back. We've got a couple of players who could make their debuts on the bench. A few changes to what you would have seen last episode, partly transfers and partly with all those injuries and suspensions in midfield. We've also got La Rosa there in the ball-winning role with Jimenez out with that suspension. Thankfully, the only Jimenez here now, but he also does like white cards for some reason in this save. Most of our Jimenezes, they do like a bit of naughty stuff there in terms of their discipline, but hopefully can find a way here, do something. But honestly, the hopes aren't high with all these changes that we've made. One of the reasons that we've kept the likes there of Henning at left back for this game, as he's a bit more familiar with what we're doing than our new signing currently in Villainy. So hopefully that might pay off. But unfortunately, poor pass there does mean that Gladbach are on the counter attack. Really nice ball through there to Mark Wu, who is the top goal scorer so far this season in the Bundesliga. But thankfully, he puts that one just wide. So a bit dangerous there from Gladbach. And also, I'm pretty sure he might have been offside as well. But Gladbach are all over us early in this game. We are going with the 4-2-3-1 as our analysts did recommend. But so far, not been too great. But 20 minutes in, we do have a highlight here of thrown just inside the Gladbach half. Nice work there from Walden to let that ball run and get a bit of space. Now Henning is on the ball here down our left-hand side. Fizzes that one into the mix of it. Gladbach can clear that one away. Decent chance here on the counter-attack, but Walden tracks back quite nicely. The one concern with him in central midfield, he doesn't really tackle, but it might not matter. He gets brought down there inside the box. Now, to be fair, that looks pretty soft, but the referee isn't going over to his little screen, so I dare say this one might be upheld as a penalty, and indeed it is. That's pretty soft, but hopefully a chance for us here to put this one away. Is it Rivera? No, it's Fernandez. Thankfully sends the goalkeeper the wrong way, and we take a 1-0 lead. We'll just double check here actually who the best penalty taker is, because I thought Rivera was quite good. Finishing wise better, but Fernandez is slightly better at the penalty taking, and thankfully he made it count there. So 1-0 up, despite the fact that so far Gladbach really have been all over us in this game. Do start to pick up a couple of yellow cards. It might mean that a debut there for our new right back and for Kanya, and now Rivera with a free kick. Let's see what our striker can do. That one does go quite close, but unfortunately just the wrong side of the post. Not quite as good at those as someone like Hawkera is, but about to make our way here into halftime. Definitely evening up the stats here just before we head in to the sheds, and now throwing inside the final third. Pretty much if we score a goal here, we'd look pretty good for 3 points from this game, you'd like to think, and that would be really useful to try and keep alive some chance at winning the title this season. Just go one better than we did last year, but Gladbach are putting a good press on us here so far in this highlight. But Lazar cuts inside nicely, and now he switches out to Henning down our left-hand side, and quite a bit of space. Floats that one over, tries to pick out Lazar, can't quite find him, but Ballerini is there to tidy things up. We'll pick out Lazar, who puts it away in the bottom left corner. 2-0 right before half-time, so thankfully we do grab a cushion goal. I wouldn't say it's entirely deserved, but thankfully off the back of that pretty soft penalty that we got there through Lewis Walden, we have started to get on the front foot. Nice work there from Ballerini off the back of the ball from Henning, and we put that one away through Nuno Lazar and should take a 2-0 lead into halftime, albeit our defence has quite a bit of yellow card trouble. So I think to play things safe here, we'll take these guys off. Ballerini having a blinder on a 7.9, but probably a good idea here to bring on someone in his place. Just seeing what else we can do. La Rosa can cover centre back, so maybe what we'll do here is switch him with Ruslan. Cuervo can come off for Alvasa, who's actually more natural in that defender role instead of the stopper one. For Kanya can come on there at right back, and it will be Mensah who comes on for Cuervo, as La Rosa hopefully can do a job there on the left-hand side of that centre-back pairing. So a couple of weird changes there with our squad for this game. Obviously, all those suspensions affecting us in midfield, but so far going pretty well. A 2-0 lead with only our 3 shots on target. Obviously, the XG boosted up quite a bit there through that penalty, which we did put away in early stages of the second half. Again here, looks like we might be on the front foot. Nuno Lazar here will run in stride, tries to beat the goalkeeper there at his near post. Unfortunately, just tips that one onto the woodwork. But Kanya goes down. No penalty. It's going to be a throw for us here again inside of the final field. We don't see it. Unfortunately, our new Italian right back just tried to sell that one a little bit too much, but now it's Gladbach who are on the ball. That pass, though, a shocker. And for Kanya, looking a little bit dangerous here early in his debut in terms of attack, which is quite nice to see. Now Lazar will float this far post. Can't quite pick out Fernandes, but Henning's there to tidy things up. Goes far post again, picking out Lazar, but can't quite do it. Now actually a chance for Gladbach on the counter-attack. They'll feel pretty harsh that they're down after half-time, but again, some great work there from Fakanya, making a big impact on debut. Can he score from a tight angle? No, he can't. Good save there from the Gladbach goalkeeper, but definitely on the front foot here early in the second half, largely thanks to the efforts from our new Italian right back. Unfortunately, can't quite pick out there. I think that would be Altvasser at the far post. We've got a throw-in, but we don't see it. But so far, 15 minutes in, we are looking quite good. We might actually give a debut here to Valny at left back, seeing as Henning is just dropping down to a little bit of a deep yellow heart. And we will try and get him a bit familiar with how we play before some games that might be a little bit tighter coming up, seeing as we're looking pretty good so far to pick up something from this one. First up off the back of the winter break, so a debut for Valny. And now we've got some players in trouble. For Kanya, we won't take off on that yellow card, but Quintana is on the bench, and Salas has just picked up an orange injury. Fingers crossed that's not too serious, albeit Lucchini should be back soon, so Quintana can make his debut there in that somewhat unnatural central attacking midfield role. Definitely looked a bit more natural there at left wing, but we'll try him out there in central attacking midfield. Hopefully that'll work out quite nicely long term for us. He can become a future homegrown player just like these days. Adama Kamara is in that same position, but trying to make this 3-0. Some lovely short passing. Fernandes floats that far post there for Lazar. Can't quite put that one away. It comes off the woodwork. We try and put the ball there back into the mixer, and they do deal with the danger. And now about to make our way to the final 10 minutes of this game. Time for us here to just time waste ever so slightly and get our goalkeeper to slow the pace down, make sure that Gladbach hopefully don't find a way back into this game like Bayern did in yesterday's episode, which just about to time waste even more. But a highlight here as we're going to try and make our way out from the back. Some interesting play here as we're trying to do that, putting ourselves here under a little bit of pressure. But La Rosa, obviously a really good player on the ball, should be a lot better than our usual centre backs, but unfortunately that long ball didn't quite find the mark. Then Batata will hoof this one deep. They do win it back here. Do Gladbach try and play that one deep over the top? Thankfully, Altvasser can win that one back for us. And now we're going to get something going here down this right-hand side through for Kanya, who's been pretty impressive on his debut off the bench so far. Now just keeping the ball here like you'd hope we would with this lead late on in this game. La Rosa, lovely ball out there to Villainy, who puts that one into the mixer. It's a wonderful ball for Rivera. If he stayed onside there, could wrap this up and make it 3-0. That ball there from Villainy was really good off the back of the La Rosa pass, and thankfully Rivera did stay onside. We make it 3-0, so it definitely will wrap up this game. No need you think now to time waste even more, because 3-0 we should be safe. It's a really nice ball that from Villainy. It comes off the back though of that pass from La Rosa, a bit better than you'd see usually from one of our centre backs here in this team. So maybe that move ended up being a bit of a help for us here in this game. The yellow card to Cuervo might have actually paid off. La Rosa, though, also picks up a yellow card at defenders in this game. Just loving those yellow cards. I think that's about 6 that we've picked up in this game, but thankfully it doesn't prove costly. No red cards this time in a home game, and we pick up, in the end, a relatively comfortable scoreline win there of 3-0. Highlight-wise, Gladbach all over us early, but off the back of the penalty, which we earned through Walden and Fernandes put away. Definitely a bit of a momentum swing in that game, and from there really put the foot down and hand out there a little bit of a beating to Gladbach. And with the changes that we made, that's a little bit of a surprise, honestly. So it's a great start off the back of the winter break. We'll see what that does to the table. Definitely going to close the gap there on Gladbach. Not too sure if Bayern are playing at the same time as we are here on this match day, but that is a very, very good win. Don't run the cards there, considering that we picked up a 3-0 win. Rivera, a great goal scorer, 12 goals now in 12 starts and 5 sub appearances. And for now, we are only 2 points off top of the table, and Gladbach, albeit Bayern, they do have a game in hand. Hopefully, we might be able to close that gap when we take on Leipzig off camera, and then we'll come back for Arsenal in the Champions League. And back before the Arsenal game, and in between, we actually took on Leipzig here away from home, and unfortunately, it didn't go too well. Leipzig back to being a real pain for us here in the save. An early goal there, again, not stopping the crosses too well. We can see from one, then a poor penalty given away. They made it 2-0 just before the 20-minute mark, and here, Ballerini, not too sure what he's doing. Then Johnson can put that one past Batata, and make it 3-0. So that was a really poor performance there, some really dumb play that we did, and not too hot attacking-wise. So unfortunately, undo that good work there from that big win over Gladbach, stuff it up there with the exact same result, but this time we lose by that scoreline at Leipzig. So unfortunately, it does mean we've dropped back down to 4th. Cologne go above us, and now we're back to being 5 points behind both Bayern and Gladbach. So a bit frustrating, and also that race for Europe is quite tight this season, at least in terms of the top 7, not guaranteed that we'll actually have Champions League football if we continue to play like we just did. So that's a little bit of a concern. Wouldn't be too good if we actually regressed in this save, especially because Borussia Dortmund are steadily making their way back up that table. Could be a bit of an 8-team fight for those 7 European qualifying spots. So fingers crossed we're not the team that does miss out. Obviously, Dortmund still a lot of work to make up in those 16 games left. They're 10 points behind us. But yeah, pretty poor effort that one, that 3-0 loss at Leipzig. And also, we did have a debut in that game for our new centre-back that we did bring in as suggested. Ismail Decore came in from AC Milan. The fee, it says 19.5 million. It was not all that up front, but he came in off the bench there and looked okay, honestly. The pass there was not from him. Ballerini with the shocker there trying to link up with him, but he definitely looks like an upgrade there on someone like Ruslan. So we'll see how long it takes before he might come in over our big Georgian captain there at centre-back, but he is a quite nice signing to spend the rest of that money we did get from that away Dorn deal. And also, our third choice left-back actually is now quite upset. He wants to move away on loan because he wants to play for Norway at the Euros. Pretty sure Norway should be pretty weak at left back. He might be fine, but he's a bit upset. Obviously, there's a bit of potential, so maybe the loan would not be the worst idea, even though it would be quite nice to keep him around just to make sure he does become homegrown club in the future. But yeah, obviously a bit annoyed that we signed Villani as our new first choice left back. Otherwise, he probably would have got a bit more game time. So maybe Hunson's someone that will depart before tomorrow's episode, but that definitely will only be a loan if there is some interest in him so far. For some reason, there isn't, which is a bit strange with that high potential and decent current ability that he does have. But next up, a chance for us here to maybe try and sneak our way into a spot where we could qualify for the round of 16 straight away in the Champions League. We take on Arsenal. As you can see there, we're not that far off being guaranteed to be in the first knockout playoff round. To be fair, it probably should happen anyway with the points gap we've got there over teams like Real Sociedad. Hard to see how we will not make our way into that first knockout playoff round. But a win here over Arsenal, who are just below us on the table down in 14th, could get us inside of that top 8, and then we'd definitely have a good chance there of making our way straight through to the round of 16. These days, Arsenal managed by Roberto De Zerbi and come to this one having played pretty well over the busy Christmas New Year period. You can see there are a couple of draws to Man United and Bournemouth, which honestly aren't too great, but then they beat Man United in the replay away and have beaten Leeds and Ipswich as well. So to be fair, they have been taking on some lower to mid-table teams there in the Premier League of late, but still, they're doing quite well, sitting 5th there in the Prem. So this will be a tough task for us away from home, but hopefully can find a way here to get the job done. Thankfully, no injuries. We've still got a few players away, though, on international duty. Again, Jimenez is suspended for the Champions League this time, so he's going to be missing this game just like he was for that first game. And also, Kamara still away at AFCON, as is our backup left winger in Facundo Alanis, with the Argentinian under-23s for something I dare say like Olympic qualifying. So unfortunately, missing a couple of guys for this game formation-wise. We are going to go yet again with the 4-2-3-1, just like the previous match. It definitely looks like this one might be a little bit better than the 4-3-3. To be fair, though, there's not a heck of a lot of difference. We'll see if maybe things don't go too well. We switch to the 4-3-3, but hopefully can do something decent here against Arsenal. Even a point should guarantee us our spot through to that first knockout playoff round. So then that last game against Atletico Madrid might not mean too much, especially if we're not able to pick up a win, because then it will be pretty tough to sneak inside of that top 8. But quite a few changes again here with a few players on a heavy workload off the back of those 2 games in the Bundesliga off the back of that winter break. So it does mean it's not really a good team we're going to be putting out here for this game. But Decore comes in for a starting debut there alongside Cuervo. Also, again, La Rosa and balling midfield, obviously, with Jimenez being out with a suspension. As well as that, attacking midfield-wise, it is a little bit weird. We've got Lazalia at right wing, Quintana in the advanced playmaker role with still no Kamara and Lucchini on a heavy workload, and Max Meyer at left wing. We've got no Alanis and our regular first choice in Fernandez, heavy workload and quite injury prone. So quite a few changes there in behind Rivera and attackers Arsenal. They are going here with a bit of a funny 4-2-2-2, so we'll see how that might go. But as well as that, we've got Villeneuve making his debut for us starting wise at left back as well. He's been pretty good so far when he's come off the bench, as you would have seen before in that debut where he picked up that late assist for the Rivera goal, which made it 3-0 against that Gladbach team. Hopefully can do something here as we take on Arsenal away. Obviously, we're in the green because Arsenal here at home in the red and white, which is somewhat similar to our uniform at Jahn Regensburg. Not really, but it will look close enough in the match engine. But fingers crossed here can pick up something at the Emirates, and that might give us a chance of sneaking our way into the top 8 when we take on Atletico Madrid. Early corner there to Arsenal. Thankfully, that ball there from Odegaard just gets put slightly over the woodwork, but Arsenal, as you'd expect here, are on the front foot earlier now, just past the 10-minute mark. They've got a throw in here inside our half. Kai Havertz there will pick out. Odegaard goes for there to Judge, who might be a new gen, because apart from that, it looks like pretty much similar faces what they've got here in real life. They head that ball forward, actually thought might win that, but it's the referee, not us. They play a ball over the top there to Arsenal, and Judge will put that one away for, I think, his 17th of the season, which is a big old number. That's even better than Louis Rivera has, I'm pretty sure. But fingers crossed he was offside, and indeed he was, so thankfully don't get caught out there. It is still 0-0. Havertz plays this ball back here, not too sure who that was to. We don't see, but thankfully Judge did just straight offside, so thankfully it's still 0-0, but Arsenal definitely looking the more dangerous team here early in this game as we make our way just past the 20-minute mark. Thankfully, they've had quite a few shots, but none on target. Our XG actually not too bad compared to these, considering we've just had the one chance apparently in this game. Not that we saw it, but so far it's going okay. To be fair, against a team like Arsenal, with the changes that we've made for this game, a point away, it might not be too bad, but it probably does mean we've got not much chance of making our way straight through the round of 16. So then we go in to that first knockout playoff round, which could be quite tough. Some quite big teams not performing too well in this stage of the competition. The likes of Bayern Munich will make some subs here at halftime. Both our wingers not going too well, so unfortunately that does mean that we're going to have to bring on here some guys on heavy workloads. Walden, Fernandez, they can come on, and also Lucchini for Quintana, who does also look a little bit tired there at halftime on a 6.5. We'll tell the guys not enough ball because Arsenal have been dominating this game so far, and we've not been up to too much that we've seen in the match engine. Hopefully, though, that injection of some actual first team players might make a difference there, and behind Rivera, who so far has not had too much service, albeit our XG is actually quite good, and maybe those changes will pay off here. A highlight early in the second half, but unfortunately lose the ball there down our left-hand side, so Arsenal get a chance here to make their way out from the back. They play it one across the face of goal there, just do enough to keep the ball in. Now actually find Martinelli, who starts to drive forward here down the left-hand side. Declan Rice baby, gets on the ball, try and curve that one into the top right corner, but thankfully it comes off the woodwork and goes out for a corner, so it didn't actually. It was a slight save there from Batalla. A big chance there for Rice baby to make it 1-0, but Batalla comes up there with a good save easily. Our best player in this game so far as well apparently is Ballerini, who sits on a 7.0, but now Hawkera picks up a yellow card. Omar Salas can come on for him here, his first taste of Champions League action. But so far, honestly, our outfield players not looking too hot in this game. Now Rivera drops down to a 6.4, which is not too great, but Ballerini can kind of see that he might drop down to a red heart shortly, so maybe that's what we should be saving up our final sub for. Unfortunately, Arsenal get that ball back there. We eventually do win it back, though, off the back of a long ball for Lewis Walden. Does start to drive forward, but then a loose touch does mean that Arsenal can win that ball back again. They're trying to make their way here out from back. Pretty shaky when they do that, but that ball a little bit too deep there for Fernandez. He recovers quite well, does get tackled, but we keep the ball here just outside of the box. The Rosa for there to Lewis Walden, who will put that one away. The assistant referee, though, has put their flag up. Not too sure why, because honestly, that looked pretty good. But if the flag goes up, it usually doesn't change anything. And indeed, the goal has been ruled out for being offside. Very close there to taking a very lucky 1-0 lead. Lewis Walden apparently offside. Honestly, that's very, very close. Not too sure if it's been shown too well there in the match engine, but indeed it was offside. So unfortunately, it's still 0-0 here at the Emirates, which to be fair, as I said, wouldn't be the worst result away against a good Premier League team like Arsenal. Unfortunately, that ball floated in there out from our left back this time, and Fellaini does get covered quite well. So Arsenal here with another chance to make their way out from back this time. They do a decent job, but Fellaini tracks back quite nicely and can get that ball back for us. We hoof it deep, and unfortunately no one's home, so Arsenal get a lot of time here to recover and get themselves back on the attack. Bukayo Saka cuts inside. A bit of a tackle, fortunately falls for another Arsenal player, but that shot gets saved again by Batalu, who's been a blinder here at the Emirates. Some good pressure there on Saka from Lucchini, but thankfully that shot again forces a great save out of Batalu. So Batalu's coming up big for us here in this Champions League clash over at the Emirates, and thankfully we deal with the danger there from that set piece. It's definitely time for us here to make our final sub. As we suggested, Ballerini does drop down to a red heart for Kenya. Of course, looked really good off the bench in that debut he had against Gladbach. Let's hope he could do something here late on and maybe help us pinch a point. Lewis Walden picks up a late yellow card. Unfortunately, coming off the bench, he has actually been pretty average, just like Lazar was in the first half. So our attackers in this game have not been too hot. We've been quite a good XG despite the fact we've not done too much in terms of attack that we've seen. We'll go here to a slightly higher tempo and see if that might help. Not too much more though, because it'd be quite nice to at least take something from this game. Make sure we do qualify for that first knockout playoff round. We will late here get Walden to ease off tackles, because at this point it probably doesn't matter too much if he does get stuck in and actually do something decent to get us going here on the counter-attack. Arsenal have definitely been the better team in that game stats-wise, but in the end, it does finish as a 0-0 draw. So somewhat there of a ball draw, but both teams with some good chances. But Tata for us came up big there on a number of occasions to keep Arsenal at bay. We had that one big chance there where Walden did put the ball away, but unfortunately, he's straight offside by about a toenail on a pinky. So unfortunately, that one does finish 0-0 to be fair. It's not too bad, especially in a game where quite rarely we were on the front, but surely that does see us qualify for that first knockout playoff round, seeing as we are 6 points clear of Bayern as well as Manchester United. You can see there's some big teams down there that we could get if we don't sneak our way into that top 8, which unfortunately now might be a little bit of a tough ask off the back of that goalless draw at Arsenal. So a bit of a respectable bounce back from that poor loss at Leipzig for us there, a 0-0 draw at Arsenal. Of course, started off really well today with that 3-0 win over Gladbach. Unfortunately, there are a couple of teams who played later than us there and the day after have picked up some wins. So it does mean our chance of going through straight away to that round of 16 are not too high. There are the results there from the Wednesday on this Champions League match day. We'll just check out here the stage. As you can see that we have indeed qualified for that first playoff knockout round, but unfortunately we're 3 points behind Nice and our goal differential is not too hot either, honestly, compared to this. So I don't think even if we pick up a win over Atletico Madrid at home on the final match day of the Champions League this season, that we'll be able to make our way in to that top 8. So I dare say there's not going to be too much riding on that last game. Might be a chance for us there to rotate and just save up some bodies there and make sure there's no suspensions going in to that first knockout playoff round where we could get some quite big teams, as you can see, in between that 9th and 24th spot currently, and even just below that, there's some pretty handy teams. Real Sociedad currently missing out completely, so quite happy with that off the back of what happened at the start of this season. But I think that will do it for today's episode. Quite a few transfers and a mixed couple of results there off the back of the winter break. But if you enjoyed that one, then do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video, and if you haven't done so already and are enjoying the series here on the channel, also make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn that notification bell on as well. We'll come back tomorrow. Now, I think we can potentially skip over Atletico Madrid considering that situation in the Champions League. So I think we'll come back, we'll take on that Dortmund team who are somewhat on the rise at home. Hopefully can put pay there to their chances of trying to catch us up. And also, then at the start of February off the back of transfer deadline day, we've got Gladbach in a cup quarterfinal. So I think that's another big game that we could come back for. Hopefully can beat them like we did first up in today's episode and make our way through to the DFB Pokal semi-final like we did a couple of seasons ago. So until tomorrow for Dortmund as well as Gladbach, thank you very much for watching. Keep on keeping on, and I'll see you then. Cheers.